guys, and welcome back to the Matt to Million channel, and in this clip I'm going to be taking you through my latest update for my small account challenge. As always, I'm going to be running through my MYFXbook stats. We're going to be running through those, seeing what gains I've made or what the current stats are looking like, and then at the end of the video I'm going to pick a trade from this last period and I'll share it in form of a trade breakdown to run you through my rationale behind the trade, why I took it and what the outcome was. Now this video is going to be a little bit different because I did make a bit of a boo-boo this time round, and I did make a big mistake, albeit by accident, but overall I'm still going to share this because I don't want to hide from the fact that, you know, these things happen, so keep your eyes peeled for seeing what I did, which ultimately almost ended in me blowing the account if I wasn't careful. But before we get to that juicy stuff, guys, if you are enjoying the content and you'd like to see more, please hit that likes up button. It makes a huge difference for me as a creator, supporting the channel, and also it tells the YouTube algorithm that you think we're doing an okay job. Anyway, shameless self-promotion aside, let's get cracking and let's bring up my FXbook. So with the wonders of technology, I've got my FXbook logged in on my phone here. So what I'm going to try and do is shuffle across here as I've done with all the other videos, and I'm going to try and plot sort of the screenshot here so you can see what I'm looking at whilst I'm explaining through it. Now, as you can see, as we look in, obviously the overall story here is good news. So my overall gain at the moment, I'm sat at 46.84%, which is so close to that 50%, so close. And now I am sort of really in bum twitch mode because, you know, I feel like it could go one way or the other and it can have sort of a real bad effect on your psychology if I end up taking it backwards from here, like by quite a stint. But the big thing here that you can see is although we are up 46.84%, look at that drawdown stat. Look at it. 33%. Why? Why, you ask? Well, I absolutely made a complete error. As you can see, I'm actually going to put a screenshot, I'm going to get rid of this for a minute, and I'm actually going to put a screenshot up there showing you. You can see that all of my lot sizes here are basically like, you know, 0.1, 0.2 max, mainly 0.1. The problem is that because I'm on MT4 and I keep switching between the accounts, you know, I don't always use a trade copier because sometimes I find that matching the syntaxes between, you know, the terminologies in terms of, you know, what somebody classes as US 30 or DJ 30 or whatever, you know, you can end up getting into a bit of a matrix system there. But the problem is that when I do put in a lot size, often, well, my MT4 on Android anyway carries it across. So if I go onto the next account, it's already on there. Stupidly, you can see here that I actually put a 1 lot size down instead of a 0.1. So, in short, I was on a higher risk because I used a tiered risk management strategy, and I had that 1 lot size put on, and I ended up opening the phone and just check it in because it was, I think it was a limit order that got triggered, and I was like, whoa, this is not good. And as you can see there, that's really sort of told the story. Now, if I get back to these statistics on here, you can see obviously, like, you know, the balance is, you know, 213, 57, so on and so forth. But when we actually take a look at, you know, where we're actually at in terms of the statistics themselves, you can see that when we look at the average win and the average loss, they've been completely marred. So now my loss is actually bigger than my average win, just because of that huge loss that I ended up taking on that. And here you can see when it's broken down that the worst trade was actually £61.57, and my best trade was £63.86. Now, the question you're going to ask is, why is a win the same as the loss if you knew that you'd already screwed up on the lot size? Good question. Now, I had two options here. Because basically what happened was I'd almost wiped out pretty much all of the profits that I got to at that point, so I would have been starting the challenge from scratch. Now, with a rush of blood to the head, I was like, what do I do? The positions that I were looking at, there was a good entry that I could take in terms of one that was a very high probability for me. What I opted to do was to go in at the same lot size so that it would either make me blow the account and I'd blog it or whatever, or it would mean that I could at least bring it back to zero. So the goal was, when I got in on the 1 lot size, that I would get back to where I was before. I wouldn't, you know, in my head be cheating in the sense of like trying to ride it right up to the top of the take profit. So my take profit was set as long as I got back to zero. But that's full disclosure, you know, I made that mistake. The decision I made maybe is going against common advice. What I should have done is just carried on as normal and just taken that on the chin and then just built it back up again. Looking back on it, I probably tend to agree with you, but here I'm being honest in terms of what I did. That's what I did. So basically that happened in 2 trades, and I took them, and then we basically got back to zero. But in turn, this has now screwed up all of these stats, right? Because if you look at the longs one, that's still roughly the same in terms of like 70%, and shorts one at 75. That's improved a little bit. Best trade and worst trade we can now ignore because I don't think it's reflective in terms of like the normal risk management and the normal sizing that I was using. So that's a bit of a shame. And also sort of the best and worst trade, you know, neither here nor there. Average hold length is still relevant. So that was when in one of the earlier episodes, that was around 7.5 hours. It went up to about 15, and now it's back down to 11.5. But either way, you can see sort of the general length of time that I'm holding these trades. And the profit factor now is gone from like 10 down to 1.9 for obvious reasons, because the profit factor is obviously, I think, the sum of your profits divided by the sum of your losses or something like that. But either way, it's been pretty hammered overall. So I can't really take too much from that, and it's, you know, pretty disappointing actually, you know, in terms of doing that, you know, because I wanted to really look back on the stats and be able to see the message and see the story. I'm still going to continue with this, but I did want to be honest in terms of this. I didn't want to then kind of like hide the statistics, and then you see, okay, well, he's made 46%, and I hide the drawdown and whatever. You know, this is what happens, and this is it. You know, the last bit is obviously the monthly analytics. Obviously, we're into July now at the point of me filming this video, so I am at 11.5% for this month, and I finished June. I didn't do the whole of June. Obviously, I started this I think on the middle of June, around-ish. So it was around 31% that I made in June, and on my other personal accounts, I made, you know, it was a good month. And then on July, we're up at 11.5% so far. So anyway, that's the stats, and that's just complete honesty in terms of where I'm at the moment. What I am going to do though is now pick one of those trades. I'm probably not going to pick the ones that went on one lot because they're not particularly great trades to look at, but I will then share the screen. I'll run through it as a trade breakdown, and I'll catch up with you afterwards. Okay, so here we are on the Dow chart. Just take a look through what what I had done in terms of that trade, and the one that I've just put up on the screen. So this is what I'm going to be running through, and for me, basically, it's a pretty straightforward one. I'm going to try and whip through it. As you can see, as I've shown, you know, on a few occasions, you get this on the Dow where it goes sort of a drop, and then you get a consolidation, V correction, consolidation, and this has happened time and time again. And basically, essentially, what I'm looking for is really this you know, this area here is basically you know, like a free passage, right? And what we're looking for is this is sort of coming out of this consolidation area, which is very similar to this one here. So for me, what I'm looking for is for this to sort of push through, and I'm looking at, you know, every time this is kind of you know, broken, it's come back and retested a certain level. For me, I'm looking at these as one, because, you know, when it's retraced, it's not necessarily, you know, retraced onto this particular level. So that's sort of an area that I'm looking at to see, you know, how it may play out. But my bias is very much long, because I am looking for it to do, you know, something along these lines, and to get back to where it was. So that's really just to complete that passage of play. If we watch sort of how it plays out, we get the push through. We do get the hover around this level, which is, you know, interesting because it is, you know, respecting that level, you know, quite nicely there. And then we get sort of a bit more of a retracement, and eventually, you know, we get that push through. Now, what I want to see is, you know, I'm expecting it to have a reaction around this point, purely because that was the high, and I'm looking at kind of like, where can I potentially get in, because this level is sort of out of bounds for me in this example. I think that for me, I'd be looking to take an entry sort of in and around that point, because that would signify just a small bounce off of that level, and then you could carry on our way, you know, to the top of the range. So that's really, you know, what I'm identifying and looking for, which is you know, which is this round here. So if we take a look at how things play out, I get triggered in. So let me move that across. Unfortunately, I didn't get triggered in on that one. So we get triggered into the trade here, and then sort of it bolts right up. The thing for me here is that realistically, you know, I wanted it to get to the top, but then I saw this huge rejection wick, and obviously just due to the amount of consolidation that's, you know, happening at the moment within this area, I wasn't sure whether we were going to get sort of a massive pullback down to here and then a push back up, and I didn't really want to leave too much on the table. Often I find that the wicks get fulfilled, or, you know, just a tad above. So what I was looking at taking is sort of this way. You probably saw the profit line was sort of in and around that level. And you can see that eventually it comes through and it takes us out, me. But yeah, I could have probably got it to that level. I can't remember. Yeah, so I could have got it to that level. The point is, again, like I said, you know, I must say I have found it tricky with the smaller account, because I've been trying to sort of capitalize on profits to sort of bulk the account slightly more, and I'd rather take sort of more frequent profits. And I definitely have felt a bit more apprehension on the small account. You know, like a lot of these trades I'm taking on the personal account and letting run, and have a lot more confidence on it. I think maybe because I've set myself a target and stuff, and you know, I'm constantly looking for areas where it could go wrong. But that pretty much runs through this trade. You know, it's just a quick one. It's very much just the bias was created from here, in terms of going, you know, looking for that bullish move. You know, for me, there's been that sort of bounce within that level already, and it's sort of been given a rejection wick and a body close on that level. So for me, that level's kind of been used. You know, what I'm really looking for is to see, well, this was the previous high of this bullish move, likely to get a reaction, which we did. Where's a good spot where I think that it would come down to naturally, you know, to actually retest to keep that bullish momentum? Obviously, it'd be around here. So that's why I take the entry on there. Covered the wick below this this bullish wick, sort of the counter wick of the bull move there, and so on and so forth. And then, you know, managed to steal a good trade there. Could have been better for sure. But yeah, like I said, you know, I'm being honest in terms of how I found the account, and you know, these sorts of trades that I'm taking, and obviously the other ones that you're seeing because I'm displaying them on the screenshots and whatnot. So there you go. So I'm going to hand back across to myself, and I'll wrap up the video. Okay, so there we go, guys. A bit of an interesting period, this one. Sort of got out of jail free, I think, in terms of what I was doing. It wasn't necessarily a knee-jerk trade in terms of, you know, the trade that I took to balance it out after making that mistake wasn't an invalid setup or an impromptu one or where I was trying to force it. It was a logical trade. The only difference is that I tried to match the risk, you know, so that I could get back to zero and carry on with this challenge and hopefully see where I can get with it. But hopefully you got something from the trade breakdown. Hopefully you got something from this, and obviously mistakes do happen. If you've got any questions, queries, abuse, as always, feel free to put it in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you have enjoyed this, and if you do want to see the next video and see if I do make any more mistakes, or head across to my Instagram if you want to shoot me a DM. Also, I do post daily live updates over there. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to wrap it up here. If I don't speak to you before, have a cracking week, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take it easy.